Great. Welcome this afternoon. This is the Snow Library Board of Trustees meeting. It's Tuesday, May 5th, 2026 at 4:30 in the afternoon. We're in the Cape Cod room at Snow Library, and I'm calling the meeting to order. Mark, are you there?
I am here.
So much for joining us. I'll start with seeing if anybody has any public comment that they would like to share before we get going on any topics. Okay, we're going to start with Joan. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We've got an ongoing series that's called Happenings at Snow Library, where we talk about an aspect of the library. And we've had a few employees who've come in over the course of the last few months, learning new things about the stuff that keeps the library humming. And thank you for joining us this afternoon. And just feel like this is hanging out in somebody's living room. It's slightly different because it's being recorded and shared with the rest of the world.
Well, I'm Joan Cozon, and I'm a recent hire at Snow. I came in mid-October, and I handle the adult event programming, not children's. That's Kim Alclair who takes care of that. And I also do the publicity for the adult events. Just a little bit about my background. It's slightly unusual. I retired about 10 years ago as an attorney licensed in 2 states, including Massachusetts. Spent 23 years in New Mexico, specializing in child welfare law. Prior to that, however, ever since college, I was very much involved in public relations and marketing. I had my own firm in the late 70s and 80s called PR Plus. So when I saw the ad in the town website, I thought, you know what? Let me just give this a try because I also have been doing for the last 2 years. I am the leader of one of the groups of the Chatham Harwich newcomers, and I do all of their events. And I thought, well, I do all of that for free. Why don't I try an interview and get some money out of it? So anyway, here I am. And we've had quite a successful 6 months here, including the winter concert series, which is ongoing every year. I just brought down a few flyers for you guys to look at. This was something that we designed, and our first event was Moselle. She brought in 94 folks into the crane room. Our most popular event was the February 14th show of Kingfish, and we got 104 folks out of it. Meanwhile, I distributed all the publicity to the local papers, and just a couple of other shows that really worked well. This one was terrific for the community. We had 48 people come in, and it was called Cut the Cord with Sarah Canning, Cut the Cable Cord. And we had loads of men come in and listen very intently to Sarah. I had a email list that I left at the back of the room for anybody who wanted handouts for the presentation. Both sides of the sheet were filled. We had 49 emails from folks that wanted information. What I have here, I'm going to pass this around to you. Just a couple of thoughts on what's going on for programs in the past and also what's coming up in the future. One of the highlights of our summer season is I have gotten Hyanna Sound in, and they're coming in on June 17th for a performance. So we're real excited about that. One of the other things that I do is keep up the town calendar, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. And I was originally supposed to present last month, so I actually made copies for last month. But these are some of the events that the public can find from Snow Library. This is updated on a weekly basis. I'm going to handle this next tomorrow to check and see. We've got a couple of cancellations, but that's already been taken care of. Lifetime learning is not something that I handle, as you're probably aware, that's handled through the Friend. And but we do publicize lifetime learning through Wowbrae. That's another resource that we use to publicize the events. That's an online subscription. So a lot is going on. Kaimi and I work very closely together. And I think it was about 10 days ago, she said to me, we have more than one event per week for adults going on for the rest of the year. And that was her goal. So she's told me to cool it a little bit and not solicit events, but if people come to me with ideas, to talk to them. And so I'm still really wrapped up in putting together the fall program. We've got a lot of good things going on, as you can see from our listing. And I think Snow Library is a great little library. We've got a lot of good events going on. And if anybody has any questions that they would like to ask me about the events or anything else, I'd be willing to take some questions.
Great. Well, thank you so much. And thanks for the handouts too. Really helps. I find whenever you hand out things in the middle of a meeting, everybody just starts looking at it, not completely there. So in the neighborhood of 500 events occurred at the library last year, maybe a little bit more than that, maybe 550. That's a lot. And if you subtract the children's events, you're still humming along, and you subtract the lifetime learning stuff. It's quite a few. Do you find that you have to turn away any groups or organizations due to
Yes. Yes, there are some groups that how do I put it? Maybe a little too political.
So it's not a
And
match for
yeah, and we want to stay away from that.
Okay.
And
Or do you
there
find
are some musicians that their fees are too much for us.
Yeah.
So that's always a limit. I have to be careful about the budget.
without the support from the Friends, it would be very difficult in the law?
Right,
Uh,
right. And then we have, the trusts that the Helen Telfair Trust and the Grace Anslow Trust that we work with as well.
That's neat. And it is fascinating that events like, historically, we didn't have events that talked about how to, get rid of Comcast and start with alternative to saving money. I mean, that's a whole new category
Right,
of
right.
areas of home improvement. And
Just so we don't mention any company names.
well, of course. And I probably shouldn't have said that. They probably just flipped a switch on my service. There we go. Anybody have comments or questions that they'd like to ask?
Well, I just wanted to mention one event that we're having tonight at 6:30. And it's called Laughter is the Best Medicine. And this is by Robert Revest, and he talks about the breathing, the joy that one can get from being free with laughter and being lighthearted. And so this is something that we're really looking forward to. And one you mentioned about current events and situations that may not have been in the past, but we're facing right now in the present and the future. This is coming up at the end of the month. This is going to be absolutely phenomenal. We're talking about AI and what it means to be human in the midst of artificial intelligence.
Is that the title of a book?
The title of the book is What Art is Now Creativity in the Age of AI. And it's by a former judge who has hugely impressive credentials. So I'm absolutely thrilled that he is coming here.
And did you seek him out or did he come?
No,
to
he
us?
came, he's a local Orleans author.
Oh, great.
So he came into the library. We get a lot of folks that just come into the library.
Yeah.
And either I speak with them or Kaimi speaks with them.
Okay.
And then the next step is to fill out a registration form. And then I get on it with them as far as further contact, phone, email, and then we decide on a program.
Great.
What's his name?
But for May, we've got at least one program a week. There are some weeks that we've got two programs going on. And one of the things that I want to focus on is local folks. And next month in June, I'm bringing in the Orleans Historical Society.
Okay.
And they are going to be speaking on the Pendleton
Good.
disaster.
Great.
So we've got a couple of historians for that.
Great. That's really nice too. And it's nice to bring in other divisions that can be out on their own, like the Historical
Right.
Society holding their own other events. So bringing them in is always a positive thing. Any other questions?
I wondered if I could take a picture of that.
This one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
For that
Is
one.
it Jones?
name?
Is it Jones? Mike Jones?
Michael Jones.
Yeah.
Oh,
Judge Jones.
Do you have, are any of these available by Zoom or in video form after the fact for people who can't attend?
Amy and I have talked about that. At this point, no.
Yeah.
Lifetime Learning's events
Right.
and programs are available by Zoom, but we don't have the capacity right now. She has been talking to me about that, but it's something that's in the future.
And then kind of along those lines, some libraries have, I don't know exactly how they work other than that you sign up through the library, but you're attending a Zoom with someone
Like an
far,
author.
Yeah.
right, with an,
Yeah.
do we have, do you do those or?
No,
Okay.
no, we don't
Lifetime
do.
Learning does.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
Lifetime Learning does,
Yeah.
but no. But I
Okay.
know Eldridge is an example of a library that does that.
And
Yeah.
Brewster.
Yeah,
But you can
Brewster out
sign
down.
up for
Yeah, oh,
those.
and I have,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I've signed up for ones at my hometown
Mhm.
Yeah.
because I figure I still, I mean, I visit, I patronize the businesses.
So the Lifetime Learning equipment is in a closet and it takes a couple of people to move it out and set it up.
And operate it, yeah.
And it's it's not built in, so it's something that I've talked with friends of Snow Library about the library getting more access to it because it would really help, especially the crane room.
I guess it's getting the people that can run it. That's probably
Well,
the
that's the
long
thing.
pole in the
It's-
tent.
it's-
That's
Because
right.
they're all volunteering their time and
Or
Ellen's got them,
right. I think one day, and I think that that'll be a central part of the new facility, without a doubt, or a central part of a heavily renovated building. Because I think it's just so important to be able to have people getting access to things. And Lifetime Learning does a great job in terms of pulling out all those people, especially people who can't get out of their houses,
Oh, absolutely.
and it's their high point of their day.
When we planned the Eastham Library, we made sure to make sure the equipment was installed so that we can do classes, or Eastham Library can do classes from like Harvard. Because they
Yeah.
do publish free online classes, so
Oh,
all
yeah.
that stuff is available.
Yes.
One of the things I will
That's-
mention,
yeah.
Michael Jones has told me that he's going to be bringing in an assistant called Clark Duty, and Clark is going to broadcast this for a podcast in the future.
Okay.
So they're bringing in their own equipment to put
do
this
that.
together. Yeah.
Mhm.
And a couple of our other programs in the past have done that as well. They
Great.
bring in their own and they put through a podcast in the future.
Okay, great.
That's interesting. I wonder if audio is a lower lower bar to reach that would still give people the chance to listen in and learn something.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot easier.
Yeah. Any other questions for John?
Could I ask one or two?
Fire away.
My first question is, and they're both related, is there an upper limit of what we will pay for an individual presenter? And then related to that, is there an overall annual budget for programs?
Yes, there is an overall annual budget. I've worked with Tavi about that. As far as our overall fee, it is changeable. What I am finding though is for music events, it ranges between, it could go as low as 300 and it could go as high as 700 for a group. Most of the other presenters do not require a fee. The author's talks pretty much are all no fee. The person that's coming this afternoon, Robert Revest, he's actually from New York, and he is a musician, so he is requiring a fee. Um, so it's very variable. I don't have one flat fee that I offer. I do negotiate with folks. Some folks come in and they're really on the high end, so we talk a little bit, and if they're interested in presenting here at Snow Library, we do come to an agreement. Sometimes we don't.
Anything else, Mark?
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much, John. We
Yeah,
really
thank
appreciate
you.
you coming
Thank
in.
you.
Yeah, it's
Thank you
great.
very
And all the hard
much.
work you're doing.
Yeah.
This is just October. You just started in October.
Right.
I can't wait. What a year looks like. We really appreciate all your time.
Well, it's been exciting. I really enjoy it.
If we have any legal documents, that you
Right.
slide them by you.
Can't give out professional advice.
There we go. The lawyerly response.
Yes.
Thank you, John.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very much.
Thank you.
Okay, and on the topic of artificial intelligence, continuing, there've been a couple of conversations recently, and the state held a discussion on the topic of artificial intelligence, and Snow Library has sort of run into a couple of things regarding artificial intelligence, as we all have in our daily lives. I'm going to turn it over to Tavi to talk a little bit about the policy thing, but what I will say before we get going is that Bill has offered to provide his expertise in leading maybe what might be a subgroup to discuss this further. So we don't have to have a long, drawn out conversation about where Snow Library is going, because I feel like we really need to do our homework. But
Yeah, and just to clarify, I have a background in AI, worked at MIT for years, and I'm about to launch a Substack that's about AI and humans.
Great.
excellent. Tavi?
So I attended this program by the Massachusetts Library System called the AI Policy Edition Hour. And it was essentially to introduce librarians to AI and get a feeling from those who attended what their views were on it. And it ran the gamut from some librarians saying, I think there are too many ethical problems with it. I think we shouldn't do it now, or we should wait and see how others are doing it and then kind of get on the bandwagon. Two librarians who have said, AI is here. We can't not use it because we will be doing a disservice to our patrons. And you might ask, in what areas? So how would libraries specifically use AI? And so some of the topics they're talking about are AI powered searching, chat bots, using AI for personal recommendations, sort of like I would imagine what used to be called the reference interview, where the reference librarian would interview people. And then there are even some librarians talking about it being used for cataloging. So search and retrieval, using natural language queries, making them more accurate using AI. Chatbots, because you could have virtual conversations 24/7 if a patron wanted. Um, collection management, predicative analytics, they call it, using AI. And then probably another area too is AI aids that would help with accessibility for patrons with disabilities. So, so those are the things that people are thinking of using AI for. I think the main stumbling block, aside from any kind of budgetary one, which you really don't know unless you get involved with it, are the ethical concerns. So, libraries have always been concerned about patron privacy, about access to certain materials. And so my sense from the discussions is that the people's real concern is an ethical one. Let me give you an example and this is, I think, how we started this whole conversation. Snow Library was approached by a programmer who wanted to do a program here. This is before Joan came here. And this person wanted to do a program of how anyone with no musical ability and no musical talent, not even being able to read music, could use their computer to compose symphonies, orchestras, orchestral works, and so forth. So right away for us, and I was in on the conversation, we felt the ethical dilemma right away. But so in other words, I mean, we have musicians come here, and some of our best musicians, they compose all of their own music, and it's fantastic. And there seemed to be something unethical about someone who spends their life composing music, and here is someone like, for example, I mean, I, who have limited music background, could compose using AI. And for me, I wasn't comfortable offering that kind of program to our patrons without any kind of guidance. It just felt wrong to me right up front. And that's when I wanted to have the conversation. I thought, well, if these are the kind of programs we're going to be getting requests for, we really ought to have some kind of guidelines. And it isn't just music, of course, it's art as well. I mean, if AI can do art, what does that do to the artist who devotes their life to artwork? So that really is why we're looking at developing a policy. One of the other takeaways that I got from this is that MLS, for example, says they don't call their AI policy an actual policy. They call it guidelines. One of the things that is in their guidelines is that they won't use any kind of imagery that's AI generated. So that's the kind of thing that we'll be discussing. And they said also, if whether you have an AI policy or just a set of guidelines, it's probably something that you're going to need to review continuously because of the nature of the field itself always changing.
Yeah. By the minute.
Very difficult.
Bill, what were you thinking in terms of, do you think maybe a separate meeting amongst anybody who would like to participate, either staff or
I think that would be
trustees,
a good place to start. Yeah,
to sort of start sketching out the
yeah,
spectrum and look at what might fall underneath?
yeah. I mean, as everybody in this room knows, it's really still very much a frontier. And lots of things happen that surprise users still, and it's not all safe or bounded. And so I just think we should have this conversation because we want to be as safe as we can.
Yep.
I think the differentiation between a policy and guidelines is a policy is a general sort of philosophical statement, and guidelines are practices of what you do within the policy usually. So it seems to me that guidelines is a much more appropriate place to start in terms of what is the library going to do right now, because it is gonna have to be constantly reevaluated.
Mhm.
Right.
I just don't think anybody's ready to do a philosophical statement about
Mhm.
AI, because you have to know what it is first, and it's changing so fast.
Would anybody else be interested in working with Bill on a, maybe for an initial couple of conversations? I expected it would probably be, you and Tavi
Mhm.
sitting down at first
Great.
to see what you think, and if, any other staff want to be involved, of course, you know, they're welcome to relative to their expertise.
I think a day will arrive where there are AI products for example,
Yeah.
public libraries.
Yeah.
You know, where there are categories,
Right.
but we're still kind of out there in the open frontier, and that's why we have to be really careful because we're
Right.
not doing that yet as a
It's the
society.
Wild West.
Yeah.
Bill, what's your take on the situation that Tavi had relative to somebody coming in and offering to instruct something that was teaching people how to use AI?
Yeah, I think it's wise to just be super cautious and don't buy anyone's claim that they are an AI expert and can teach people everything they need to know about AI, because there's actually people at the top of the AI industry can't even say that really, and they know it, and the best of them say it publicly. But sometimes folks looking for a position kind of gloss over that, so we have to be careful.
Yeah.
Okay.
And David came to, my husband David, who is a software engineer, came to one of the lifetime learning classes on AI, and he was extremely disappointed with the knowledge of the presenter.
Mm.
Let me put it that way. So I think we should be very circumspect.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Bill.
The two other things too, you know, you mentioned the ethical considerations too, and of course, safety, especially for children as well. So we want to make sure that that is addressed as well. And the other thing is too, so there are books that have been published using AI,
Right.
completely written by AI. And there was an article I was reading that the author, the so-called author that's listed, is not this is not the person who wrote the book. It's a completely different name. You don't know who used AI to generate this. And they even had a photo, and the photo was AI generated.
Oh.
So this whole work,
Yeah.
With 7 fingers on each hand.
this whole work is just a fallacy. It's false. It's none of it is really quote unquote true, or
And
you can't verify it.
I presume that wasn't from a major publishing house.
No, but I believe it was available. I don't think it was available on Amazon.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
My brother works for a large publishing house in New York, and they just turned back a book that they found significant portions, and it was a $1 million bonus
Oh,
that had been given to the author, and so they backed out of that whole agreement, and the book wasn't published.
wow, that's dramatic. So that's a big advance.
Yeah,
Mm.
really significant on an author who's multi-book publishing it, and they were just producing stuff at a rate that was ridiculous, and so that raised
Wow.
attention.
Yeah.
And by advance, I mean the $1 million, not that it was in advance.
Okay, well, thank you, Bill.
Sure.
And Tavi, another thing to think about while you're doing this initial work is where's town hall on this?
Hmm.
And has anybody in the town manager's office been specifically touching on this topic at all?
I can, in my regular meetings, I can ask that.
Okay, great.
That's what I was going to ask was, is town hall wrestling with this? Because I think it's certainly something that goes all the way to the top these days. So I saw a
Is-
fascinating play a couple years ago with Robert Downey Jr. in New York called McNeil, about an author who writes a novel using AI and all the ramifications. So interesting topic.
Michael, is there anything from your perspective that you want to add?
Nothing at this time.
Alrighty. So moving on to the town new logo branding effort, the last page, if you've got your packet with you. It's the logo. We talked about it last month, just a little bit. The update is that we haven't made any major decisions in regards to where this logo is going to be. Multiple conversations have happened in terms of making sure that the ship logo and the ship graphic that we're using is still considered our main um, vehicle for Snow Library. But Javi, do you want to talk just a little bit about?
Sure, there are multiple images of the logo, and town employees were given access to an electronic branding folder, which has all of these different iterations of it. So there's the color one, like you see here. There's one that's all blue. I believe there's one in each one of these different colors that you see in here. And so these are meant to be used on, for example, agenda headings. So like, in place of or along with the seal of whatever department or division, it goes along with that. And there are some specific questions I still have to ask. I would start with Amanda Converse, who's rolled this out. Like, for example, I mean, can we use any color, or is a certain department or division supposed to use a certain color? Or we could use just the colored one, or the plain blue and white one. So agendas, letterheads, memos, websites, basically anything that, and this folder has different logos in different formats to accommodate whatever you're using it with. And so the next conversation would have to be with Amanda as to, how to implement this, how to put it alongside, if we're putting it alongside the Snow Library logo, how we do that and so forth.
Okay. And I think most of those decisions really come down on a staff level for what you and Kaimi and Joan are deciding what to do. But I think that as with the fire station and the police department and the council on aging, they've all got logos that they've been using for a long period of time. I don't think the expectation is for all of our products to be set aside, but more of a partnership developed so that they can be used in a couple of key places. One thing that would be a really good spot to use this new one would be as a footer on all the staff emails that get sent out, so people see that in a color version. I did see a black and white copy of this on something this week, and I was like, "Oh God!" Because
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
and it
doesn't look
it
good.
was a very fuzzy version too that had gotten mailed out. I think it was in the town water bill.
This is just my copying that on
It-
my
it-
home printer.
It just didn't look.
No.
Just didn't look good. It didn't look professional. So that's it's one of the challenges of a piece like this. Um, okay, any other comments on this before we move on? Bill, is there anything in the financial report that you wanted to bring up this month?
There was just one thing I noticed. It's sort of the usual, numbers very similar to last month, but I did notice that the Friends book and materials line, second section there from the top, is there's not much left for the rest of the year. I assume they're always fundraising, and maybe that will change, but I just wanted to, and I don't know how important they're.
The year's through June, right?
Well, yeah, and that.
Oh, okay, I thought I got that wrong, okay.
Yeah, it's through June.
Yeah.
That's the
Okay.
fiscal year, and that's the amount that's budgeted for us. And we see these, so we work within them. So in
Okay.
other words, like, we figure out and kind of like figure out, what invoices are gonna be sent to the Friends that, will utilize that amount but not go over it
Okay.
and so forth.
That's the only thing that left out of me, and now I understand. Thank you.
Okay, great. Any other questions for Bill? Okay, so moving on to Bobby's report, is there anything in your report you wanted to bring out that isn't in this?
No, I think because I already mentioned the two things, just that I'd like to point out again. So we've got our state aid, and I'm also going to include that information in the Town Talk newsletter. So, everyone's aware that we're applying for the state aid grant, and of course to the update for the select board. When you get it, I'll put that in there as well.
Okay, great. So much. For the trustee chair report, the only item I've got this month is to thank Joan Francolini. This would have been her last meeting joining us, and she carried a significant weight during her 6-year term as a Snow Library trustee. And so thank you, Joan, for everything that you did and everything that you tried to push forward, because she did make progress in your leadership. She's has been on leave with her husband, overcoming an illness, and they've been making great progress together, and it's very encouraging. So again, thank you, Joan, so much for all that you've done. So then I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of Tuesday, April 7th from anyone,
I so move.
and a second.
Second.
Okay, so before we vote, anybody have any edits to the minutes or changes or questions? Okay, because we've got Mark online, we'll have to do a roll call. Mark, why don't you vote first?
Mark Zomack, aye.
Lindsay Goodman, aye.
Jamie Valiant, aye.
Sherry Ryan, I.
Tracy Murphy, aye.
Bill Powers, aye.
Okay, so that's 6-0. Thank you very much.
Who made the motion, please?
I did.
Cheryl.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Okay, Linda,
Yeah.
thank you for joining us.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to be here. Just briefly on the Friends financials. So again, we're about 3/4 of the way through the year. So from July through March is what I have. I don't have April yet. The Friends have about $100,000 so far in revenues. Up a little bit from last year, about 4,000 or so from last year. Contribution expenses, which are the expenses that the Friends pays on behalf of the library. They're about 34,000 so far this year. And actually, to Bill's point, we were running a little under year to date from where we had last year. So there is room, in the budget for you to continue to spend. Our operating expenses are running about 24,000 so far this year. So our net operating expenses, just our operating expenses, are about 42,000. And then we have, as you know, about $2.5 million invested at Cape Cod 5 in our investment account. And that generates so far 3/4 of the year about $38,000. So our net income is about $80,000. Which is a good 17,000 ahead of where we were last year. Now, some of that is because we've underspent compared to last year so far on contribution expenses, but that's kind of timing depending on when some of the periodical expenses come in. So we're doing very well. In other news, Tracy had attended a philanthropy Partners of Cape Cod, Philanthropy Partners of Cape Cod, excuse me, in the Islands Luncheon on April 9th. And it was unfortunate that I was out of town and wasn't able to go, but it was about best practices on setting up an investment committee for your friends, or for any of your nonprofits. And of course, we have a pretty active investment committee that I'm head of that manages our $2.5 million investment. And we actually, surprisingly, I did look at some of the charts from that meeting, and we do follow that very well. I think we need to, if anything, I took away from it that we needed to formalize our investment policy and write a policy statement, which we don't have. So I think that's one thing we'll take away from that. Tracy wanted to also mention that the Donald Baker Poetry Celebration that we do with Nauset Regional Middle School every year is scheduled for June 9th, and that will be in the Marion Crane Gallery. And also, if you've probably heard of this already, you've been working with Tracy and Jerry Grenier about the first edition of this biannual newsletter that will be going out to kind of promote the library, kind of as a key component of the community. So we're going to send that out, I believe, to our Friends membership, as well as put copies in the library to hand out and for Orleans residents to pick up. And I guess we decided not to participate in the Cherry Blossom Festival that will be out here, but we will have an all-day book sale. Well, it isn't going to be all day. This one isn't going to be all day, but it will still have the book sale going on here as well.
Good.
And I think that was it.
Great. Great. Any questions, Linda?
Can I just make an observation that the Friends of Snow Library are pretty amazing based on my experience as a library director over the last few weeks. So kudos to the Friends.
Well, they've
Thank
always
you.
been a
I'll pass it
model for
along.
the state. No, when I
Pass it
worked
along.
statewide, we used to brag about the Orleans Friends a lot, all over the
Yeah.
state. People were astounded at what you accomplished.
Yeah, I'm glad we're able to contribute to the library too, and all the programs that go on into lifetime learning. I mean, Ellen does a fabulous job of that.
I get calls from other libraries off Cape
Yeah.
and in Western Massachusetts who hear about the lifetime learning programs that
Yeah.
my friends do and say, you know, how do I put on something like that?
Yeah.
And I tell them, you know, I always say, you know, you can talk to Ellen,
Yeah.
but let me give you an idea
Yeah.
of what you need. And, you know, it's usually they go, I don't have that many volunteers to.
Well, it's like with Joan, you know, I feel the same way with Joan just mentioned this. It's getting the right person with the right skills from, you know, their previous job and matching them with something because, you know, it just, you utilize skills that are very well honed. You get people with a lot of really good experience. And if you get them in the right position, like I think Joan's a perfect example of that.
Yep.
You get the right person in that right role and their expertise just kind of flows right out of them. So.
Yeah, it's great. What would you
Yeah.
say the total number of volunteers the Friends taps into?
You mean that we utilize for, oh gosh,
If you combine the
Lifetime learning.
I mean, is it?
You know,
is
it's
it
about,
40?
I would say it's closer to 60. I did do a count on this for something I had to submit. It's closer to 60, really, if you count all the volunteers, because that counts, you know, like the ladies who help with the book sale and, you know, in addition to the lifetime learning and things like that, and all the guys that run the, you know, the video. And so it's closer to 60. It's really quite a few people. You'd be surprised how many people touch everything.
Tracy and I are very involved in the renovation work over at Eldridge Park, and the creation of a Friends of Orleans Rec is something that we're trying to make some progress on. You know, it's not nearly going to be like your organization, but just having that sort of a support network in place.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, this has got such a strong history and, you know, I remember when Ellen took over from Free Ed, we thought, oh, it's never going to be as good. And instead she expanded. I mean, you know, you build upon what previous people have done. And that's what's been done very well, you know, here, I would say.
well, thank you
And
so
thank you.
much.
I will pass
Just to-
that along.
Yeah, just to echo what Mark said, thank you so much for all that you do. Okay, any other topics anybody wanted to discuss before we adjourn? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn, close the meeting. All in favor?
So moved.
Oh, so moved. Thank you so much. Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, Mark.
Hi,
Keep up the great work, Mark.
thanks. I love the owl, by the way. It's really cool. And I have to add that I'm sitting in front of a real copy of the map that the logo is taken from.
Oh, the,
Yeah.
Oh,
The ship, the
Yeah.
ship.
Oh, that's neat. That's great.
Oh, this.
Take care, Mark.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I think they're fascinated by the porch. Look at the decorative elements around the entrance to the door. It has the.
So, Talia, are you here tomorrow?